the industry on a whole has a bright future. As far as what I've seen from the past, there are a lot of legendary people who've taught and paved the way for me. It's something that I would like to pay forward. So for young people out there, I think it's important for you to be enthusiastic, look towards people like myself who are, looking to teach. There is a famous award speech by Jim Valvano,
Mhm.
who was a coach in college basketball. It was very inspirational. He said that every day when you wake up, you think of the following: where you started, where are you now, and where do you want to be one day? And I think about that. That motivates me still. And I think if you wake up as many days as possible in your career, you're thinking about that, and you're really enthusiastic about what you do, and you could go really far in this industry.
Hello, and welcome to the Elevator Careers Podcast, sponsored by the Allred Group. I am your host, Matt Allred. In this podcast, we talk to the people whose lives and careers are dedicated to the vertical transportation industry to inform and share lessons learned, building upon the foundation of those who have gone before to inspire the next generation of elevator careers. When talent is mission critical, call the Allred Group. With industry expertise, top talent, and exceptional customer service, you need the Allred Group on your side. Your priority is their priority. Call now, 404-890-0445. Today's guest, Anthony Marchese, grew up on the shop floor of his family's elevator controls business, literally riding his tricycle between controller panels. From those early days to designing New York's first inclined elevator, Anthony's journey is a blend of legacy, innovation, and vision for the future. Anthony is currently Vice President of Technical Services at VDA and a member of the VDA New Product Committee. In this interview, we talk predictive maintenance, elevating performance with smart tech, and what it takes to thrive in a rapidly changing industry. Join us as we dig into this exciting topic. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Hey, Matt, thanks for having me today.
Thank you. This is always fun. I appreciate you taking the time. I always enjoy these conversations. So tell me, what's something you're working on right now?
Yeah, so right now, VDA is great because of a lot of freedom, to just develop my brand and, to work with a great team. Right now, we're working on some interesting things to include into specifications, optimizing the elevator. So, whether it be installation, performance, we're adding things to the specifications where a client will have options to add performance criteria, being sensors that incorporate vibrational analysis, temperature analysis, water infiltration.
Sounds intense. I mean, it sounds like you're kind of driving kind of the next level of innovation. I mean, if you can
Yeah, yeah.
really dig into that.
Yeah, absolutely. Just optimizing where we need to be using technology. I mean, the technology's out there. So why not use it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, tell me about your first exposure to the elevator industry. What was that for you?
So I come from a family where we run deep into elevators, back to the 1950s, with family. My father, my uncle, they started at O. Thompson, which was a big controller company here in New York City.
What kind of led, if I may, what kind of led them there? What was it that prepared the way?
Yeah, so I think it sounded like it was very random. I mean, my uncle found the position at O. Thompson, and my dad, graduating high school, trade school, got him the job there, and together the two of them just grew there, and they worked their way up, and eventually owned O. Thompson.
Wow. Now that's certainly working your way up to actually own the company at some point.
Yeah, I mean, like stories like that, I don't think they happen that often anymore. But yeah, it's pretty wild. They started from the bottom. I would imagine, assembly, wiring, making their way through drafting, design, where they eventually owned this company that was started in the 1920s by Olaf
Wow.
Thompson, who's an Otis engineer.
Awesome. So, I mean, you sounds like you grew up, right? I mean, if dad jumped out of high school and landed there, that, yeah, from your earliest memory of what dad does, that was, in the elevator industry. What was that like for you? What are your earliest memories of the industry?
Yeah, I mean, so it's funny because, dating back now that far, but yet, I have specific memory where I know that I'm remembering back to like when I was 4 years old. Like this is 1974,
Sure.
1975. This places me back there. And I remember just being a kid, going to work with my father. We would take my tricycle and I would drive
Awesome.
through, like the OSHA yellow lines, but back then there were like no rules. This is the
So
seven
you're like on the shop floor with your
on the shop
tricycle.
floor.
Did you have a hard hat or anything for safety, or was it just like
No,
go?
there was no safety considered. And yeah, I would like hitch maybe a wagon to the back of my tricycle
Love it.
with like a cardboard drum that a bunch of hardware came in, and then I have a broom attached, and then I'd be playing around, sweeping up.
Just during working hours, or is
Yeah,
this?
during working hours. The people were like fantastic there. They were so nice to me. They were just people that I remember faces, names, and it was family there. I would go visit my uncle up in his office. There was another uncle who was working the hardware department where I'd go visit him. Various employees would just kind of like take me under their wing. A draftsman, I remember like he would set me up next to him at the drafting table, and I would actually he would give me like we would make an original sepia, and I would
Cool.
copy what he was doing. I would take his stencils and create like normally open, normally closed contacts, and I draw or like resistors, like I would just draw, and then we would run that through this black light machine, which was
Right.
always intriguing to me with this glowing light. And then it would come out the other end, and then we'd roll it up and we'd stick it in these tubes with this ammonia smell that would take
For
your
sure.
breath.
Yeah.
And I was like making circuits. I didn't even know what I was doing.
Talking
But
about an
you know,
apprenticeship, right? Starting at what, age 4, right? You're being
yeah,
tutored.
this is how a 4-year-old like made his time. There were no iPads, there was nothing like that.
Sure.
And I was just always intrigued by it. I always just had this connection. It was just such a great place being at O Thompson as a
Did
kid.
you ever consider doing anything else? I mean, did you ever say, "Hey, fireman, astronaut, football player"? I mean, did those things ever cross your mind?
I mean, sports, yeah, being a kid involved in sports. I was a football player, then I was a hockey player. I was pretty
Okay.
serious about hockey. But, as far as just like, real life career, no. Like it just always, elevators just seemed to be the path. I never really thought about anything else.
It's awesome. What would you say are some of the most pivotal moments? I mean, do you remember specifically making a decision or maybe an opportunity or it's like, okay, ding, light bulb goes off. This is it. Anything like that?
Oh, I mean, playing around with things at my father's shop, I was interested in electricity, building components. There were so many things that intrigued me: lights, buzzers, relays. I would just make up pretend circuits. And then,
Cool.
like, he had these intriguing test panels. They look like something out of like a Frankenstein movie, with these knife
For
switches
sure.
with lights and buzzers. And I would build these circuits, but they weren't real.
Sure.
But then we would connect power to it, and I would hit buttons on the test panel, and we'd light the circuits up. So I think that just carried forward. Eventually he moved on from Thompson. He started his own controller company, and little by little, I got more and more serious about it. From working part time at 10 years old, I needed to know what it took to make $50 in the week so I could buy my next Atari.
It's all you need, man. Right? You just need it.
Yeah. So, so it started with that. And then it went to like, at age 14, got my working papers. I got a buddy to come along. Our moms would drive us over to work because it was, my dad's shop was 15 minutes from home. Um,
Ah,
you know, I remember minimum wage was 3.35 an hour.
I
My
remember those
dad said he'll
days.
give us 3.50. And we started to assemble controller components, and eventually that turned to wiring them. And then, by the time I was 17 or so, it was definitely more serious in the summers, every day after school, taking myself there. Again, my buddy was still with me. He was still working with me.
Cool.
And that's when I started to get into learning how to test and really understanding sequence of operation. And, that was with really logic. So it was easier to understand because it was a visual in front of you. Everything ended up getting incorporated into microprocessors. So we didn't see that. But back in that day, you actually saw the sequence of operation. You'd put in the call, you'd see direction, closed circuits, the elevator would take off running circuits.
Almost like the old Rube Goldberg type, ka-ching, 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 and it pulls the
Yeah.
lever and
Yeah, and it was all, sound. There was a lot, based on sounds, expectations, where,
sure.
eventually that took me to the next part of it where you're helping people over the phone, supporting them. And you could just, by the sounds of what you're hearing in the background of relays clicking, pulling in, picking up, dropping out, you knew what was going on with the elevator and where his problem may be.
Yeah. So from high school, I mean, did you move immediately into elevators? Did you go, what was kind of your path?
Yes. So pretty much, yeah. Well, I did have a short period. Like I said, I was really into ice hockey, went to school in Maine for a little bit, had aspirations of playing college hockey and everything. And then that doesn't work out. It becomes, you're back to the real world. And I said, okay, I went back to state school near home, good engineering school. So I went for electrical engineering technology. At the same time, was still working with my dad. It was an easy back and forth, go to classes, go to work. And, I learned all the programming and, all that prepares you to go to the real world.
That's awesome. Yeah. I got two questions for you here. I'm just curious. I mean, as you were coming up through, it sounds like you had so much time to kind of get used to it. I'm just curious, what was one of the hardest lessons you ever learned? I mean, obviously it's different if somebody's coming in from, off the street and they've already maybe developed some habits. Do you remember anything like that that was like, this is a challenge?
So lessons regarding elevators
You
or
tell me.
life
Maybe
in
it's
general.
getting along with coworkers. I'm just
Well,
curious.
yeah, I mean, it was difficult. There were a lot of great things about being the boss's son. So many, there was success and um, lots
Some
of
high
lots of
expectations,
things
right?
that I enjoyed, but at the same time, yeah, high expectations. You're the boss's son, and again, I come from a legacy that where everybody's successful. Cousins,
Mm,
uncles, my dad. They were just being hard on yourself, I guess, because you wanted to get to the level where
sure.
everybody else was.
Yeah.
So,
And I can see that. Yeah. And I didn't know if others held you to a higher standard because of who you
yeah,
are, or
no,
is
it was
mostly internal.
yeah, it was mostly internal. Just expectations. But at the same time, it's a motivator.
For
It was
sure.
a motivator for me to, get to the next level, to learn things. So, uh, you know, those were lessons, for
That's
sure.
awesome. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, obviously you've been at it really your whole life, right? All the
Yeah.
life that you can remember essentially. I'm curious though, what's the coolest project you've ever worked on?
So the coolest project that I got to work on was I developed New York City's first uh, certainly transit. I guess it's arguable about the inclined elevator. On there might have been some smaller projects or something, but I worked on for 7 line. There's a train that runs in the city here
Hmm.
that the 7 line used to stop in Times Square, and back in around 2010 or so, MTA, they created a design where they were going out to Hudson Yard.
Okay.
And for reasons that they couldn't go down vertically, they designed an inclined elevator.
Okay.
So I was doing pretty much all of the MT elevators at this point in time, company. And I designed an inclined elevator, but we had to work with an Italian company over in Italy. So we had to ship my equipment out there, and they had a test tower out there. And I basically designed the whole thing on the spot, time constraints, dealing with this, the whole MTA schedule. And yeah, I designed an inclined elevator, 185 feet, worked on batteries round trip. So everything was from scratch. I never did anything like that before.
So I have just a random question. Is that in that is, there's that old Italian song about the funicula that goes up the mountain.
Yes,
Is it based on the same technology? Is that what we're talking about?
same type of thing. Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it was wild. I spent a couple of weeks out there. We had to go back a few times, but then in between, I got to go visit various places. I got to go to Sicily. I'm Sicilian, so it was really nice to that whole project was just amazing. It was an amazing experience.
Well, and it sounds like, even going forward, right? I mean, anytime you ride the trains, you just know that, hey, I contributed to this part of the
Well,
city.
yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I did the majority of the MTA work from about 2005 to 2015. There are a lot of big mega projects that went up during that time. Fulton Transit Center,
Sure.
Second Avenue line. So, like to this day, it's like, I'm running around the city, and it's pretty cool to ride all these elevators, to see people shoulder to shoulder with me. We're in the elevator together, knowing that
They
I
don't know that you're the one that created it.
electrically, software. I mean, I did it all. We were a small company, and I was responsible for everything. Worked with the elevator company, tuned them up, tested them. I was part of the whole project personally. So there's a lot of, I have a lot of gratitude for having those opportunities just in life. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that sounds like a very, very rewarding. Hey, everyone. Thank you for listening. This is Matt with a brief message from our sponsor. The Allred Group has been recruiting elevator industry talent for over 14 years. If you are looking to grow your business and hire great people, contact the Allred Group at allredgroup.com. That's ALLREDGROUP.com, and talk with Matt and his team about how they can assist you. And now, back to the show. So we started by talking a little bit about the most exciting thing you're working on, but I wanted to see if you could dig in just a little bit deeper on what's most exciting about what you're working on, because you've kind of hinted that there's just kind of a lot to that. What is it that really drives your excitement about your current project?
Yeah, so we're working with some clients who have interest in getting to the next level of optimizing performance of the equipment.
What does it mean for them? Like, what are they trying to get out of it? What's the kind of the payoff of
The payoff is being proactive to
Mhm.
issues that may arise down the line with maintenance, just like an automobile,
For
right?
sure.
So, we have these advanced systems now that tell us when it's time to go to the shop for various reasons. Same type of thing. We're monitoring the equipment, we're harvesting data, um, as far as number of door cycles, how much we traveled, and all this is wear and tear.
For sure.
And, so eventually we'll be able to predict models. This is, it's a ways off. It starts with putting the equipment in place to harvest this data. So we
Yeah,
have clientele who they're interested in this. And then of course, to at the same point to capture any catastrophic event that could happen, like water infiltration, you know.
sure.
So before the entire system, water pours on top of the car top and we blow up all the equipment. What
Right.
can we do to avoid that?
For sure. For sure. Well, and some
Um,
of that you can't really predict, like a Hurricane Sandy necessarily. I mean, other than a week
right.
or a few days out, some of
So
this sounds like
right.
you can predict that, hey, we've gone through X number of cycles. we're going to need to shut down for maintenance for this long to replace this.
We're sensing vibration, friction in the doors,
Hmm.
all of these type of things will lead to shutdown. So if we could start to, capture this, put parameters on this is the low point, this is the high point, this is where we started, where we installed,
Hmm.
and after 3 to 5 years, this is where we are now. These are the vibrations we're picking up. This is becoming abnormal. We need to do something about this, whether it's to, change some door gives, change a door operator belt, whatever it is. Um, things with the brake. Again, looking at the physics and making predictions.
It is
Obvious
exciting.
common sense type things. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. So I'm curious, what's next? And would you say, I guess what I'm thinking is this kind of forward thinking approach something that you think elevator companies could actually use to their advantage and say, hey, we can now, and
Yeah.
maybe they're trying to do it. I don't know,
Well,
to predict
yeah.
for the customer's sake, I guess.
So, I would say, the world right now, we're in an AI world, and elevators has always seemed to be, in this sense, I would say, especially in this city of New York, we're a little behind, or maybe skeptical about, advancing. I remember these type of things going back to when they were just relay logic controls, and then
Hmm.
advancing to microprocessors. There were some companies that were like, no, we're just going to continue to go with relay logic, and obviously eventually technology takes over,
For
and
sure.
that you can never buy a relay logic controller now.
Well, you
So
get your early and late adopters, right? So they're
I mean, ultimately, everybody's going to have to jump on board. And there'll be ways where you're going to optimize your maintenance. This is how you're going to make money as an elevator company, And a lot of the OEMs and the majors, they already have this process in place, But ultimately, it just kind of makes sense, You have to find the way to use the technology to advance yourself as the elevator company, as the consultant, whatever it may be. Prediction is the way to go, especially now where things are kind of hidden in this black box microprocessor. There isn't a lot available, to the outside world, So
right.
you need to have these tools in place to be able to get ahead of issues.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's obviously makes a lot of sense. It sounds like a fun project to dig into and to be able to see kind of a bigger. It sounds like you're like you say harvesting data and kind of see a bigger view of maybe what you would have seen otherwise.
Yeah, and it's gonna take time, but the time is now to start that process.
So just curious, you is there anything else you're kind of seeing in the future, things that are maybe coming that maybe we haven't talked about that you're like, oh yeah, this is going to change how we do things.
I mean, to me, that's the big one.
Okay.
It's really all about that, and ultimately, just like everything else, the rest of the world, how things have gone, it just needs to go that direction. I mean, take you back to the 1930s when they were, to dig a hole, you took a team of 30 guys to dig that hole. And then ultimately an excavator came around and did that within, a couple of days,
Yeah.
So it's just no different with technology and elevators. I mean, that's just the way it has to be driven.
Yeah, yeah, agreed, agreed. So, as we wrap up, I got at least and one more question for you. But I'm curious if there's anything you wanted to kind of bring up that maybe we haven't talked about before we end.
The industry on a whole has a bright future. As far as what I've seen from the past, there are a lot of legendary people who've taught and paved the way for me. It's something that I would like to pay forward. So for young people out there, I think it's important for you to be enthusiastic, look towards people like myself who are, looking to teach. There is a famous award speech by Jim Valvano,
Mhm.
who was a coach in college basketball. It was very inspirational. He said that Every day when you wake up, you think of the following: where you started, where are you now, and where do you want to be one day? And I think about that. That motivates me still. And I think if you wake up as many days as possible in your career, you're thinking about that, and you're really enthusiastic about what you do, and you could go really far in this industry. So, I, I would just like to share that, with people who are coming up. Don't be afraid to take risks and really dive into things because there's a lot of opportunity in this industry. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's perfectly said. And it kind of, it covers the final question I was going to ask, but what it reminds me of is the old saying, start with the end in mind. And that is keep your focus on where you want to be and you can get there.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Awesome.
And even as guy who's in his golden years, I'm in my 50s, but there's just still more to do, and every day is a learning experience, and there's still a lot of unknown for me, but I love the challenge, and I love venturing into that. So
Awesome. Well, Anthony, thank you for your time. Thank you for being with me today. I've enjoyed every minute.
I appreciate it. Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. So hopefully we'll do it again sometime.
Yes, sir. Good luck to you as you keep building your career.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Elevator Careers podcast, sponsored by the Allred Group, a leader in elevator industry recruiting. Please visit our YouTube channel at Elevator Careers or check us out online at elevatorcareers.net. Please like and subscribe, and until next time, stay safe.